Good morning and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Arcserve webinar, where we'll be giving an update on the Arcserve UDP appliance. My name is Armin Juhanian. I'm the pre-sales consultant for Arcserve, and I'll be presenting today's session. Before we get started, if anyone has any questions during the session, please feel free to use the questions or the chat windows to type your questions in, and we'll address those towards the end of the webinar. During today's session, we'll go through a review of the Arcserve UDP 7000 series appliance. We'll take a look at the market overview and the positioning, and we'll take a look at the different models and the specifications of the models that are available. We'll also take a look at what's new since we first launched the appliance in Australia and New Zealand late last year. We'll take a look at the support options and some of the different programs that are also available with the appliance, such as the Appliance Upgrade Program and the Appliance Refresh Program. From a market positioning perspective, Arcserve UDP as a software offering is applicable and is designed to fit from small businesses through to the upper medium-sized enterprise and to the lower-end enterprise. From an appliance perspective, we actually have two different ranges of the appliance. The UDP 7000 series appliances are available as a 1U model, which is the 7100, 7200, and 7300 model. And we have the 2U appliances in the 7400, 7500, and 7600 models. The different models are basically equipped with different capacities of storage and therefore are better suited to different segments of the market. With the 1U appliance, we can protect up to 26 terabytes of source data, and with the 2U appliance, we can protect up to 90 terabytes of source data. So we can see there on the right, we can scale from the SMB to the medium-sized business with the UDP appliance. When we talk about appliances, there are different ways to define an appliance, and there are different categories of appliances. ESG has defined 4 different types of appliances when looking at the data protection appliance market. We have in the top left corner the traditional backup appliances. These backup appliances will be the hardware appliance itself that comes with the backup software as well as the storage to hold the backups themselves. Underneath, we have deduplication storage appliances, which typically are appliances that will have deduplication capability and is a place to store data. However, data that's stored on these dedupe appliances is typically fed by other software, and so these will traditionally not come with the backup application itself. In the bottom right, in the yellow, we have cloud gateway appliances. These appliances might be physical appliances that are on-prem or might be cloud-based instances, but the cloud gateway appliances are essentially appliances that allow on-prem devices to access cloud resources and the other way around. And lastly, we have failover, business continuity, and DR appliances. These appliances will allow you to replicate data or have VMs on these appliances so that if anything were to happen to your source machine, you can fail over onto the VMs on these appliances and continue business. It's important to draw these distinctions because where the Arcserve UDP appliance really can differentiate itself against competitors in the market is that from the Arcserve UDP appliance perspective, we actually have capabilities in all of these segments. The Arcserve UDP Appliance is the software itself and has the storage for you to store the backups like a traditional backup appliance. Arcserve UDP has inbuilt deduplication capability, which means that we can reduce the amount of storage needed to save the backups. And by doing source-side deduplication, we are also reducing the bandwidth and the time it takes to perform the backups. Arcserve UDP has cloud capabilities. We can run as instances in the cloud, we can protect cloud workloads, and the appliance can be used to replicate into the cloud, or if you're protecting cloud-based instances, to replicate cloud backups back to on-prem. And lastly, the Arcserve UDP appliances are also available in V models, which means that the V models can support virtual machines running on the appliance itself. So if you have some key systems, we can perform what we call virtual standby, which takes a backup image and converts it into a powered-off VM, and that can be running on the appliance itself. So if your source machine goes down, you can turn that VM on, and you can continue working from the last backup image. We also have additional functionality, which we'll look at in a moment, which adds instant VM capability, meaning you can pick any recovery point and create a VM out of it. And we also have options now that will allow us to perform true high availability with the Arcserve RHA offering the appliance as well. Functionality-wise, the Arcserve UDP appliance uses the simple wizard-based setup that's available with the software offering of Arcserve UDP. On top of that, we have a quick setup out-of-box experience available that makes setting up of the appliance very straightforward. With the appliance, we can protect both physical and virtual machines, and the console that's used is the same console that's used with the software deployment. In fact, if you already have a software deployment of UDP, you can have the software deployment interact and work with the appliance and vice versa. So you might have a software deployment in a DR site or a head office, and then you might choose to deploy an appliance into a branch site or a remote site. And then these can replicate, can back up, and can interact with each other. The Arcserve UDP appliance supports the backup of virtual machines using an agent, or we can also do agentless backup for Hyper-V and VMware virtual machines. As I mentioned, we can have global deduplication, which is a source-side deduplication, which means that the transfer of data is network optimized, and from the client to the appliance, the data that goes across the network is already deduped and is already compressed. Of course, we support the backup of not only Windows and Linux systems, but we also support applications. We can protect Exchange, we can protect SQL, file servers, Active Directory, and more. The key thing with the Arcserve UDP appliances is that when you purchase an appliance, you don't need any additional per server or per socket licenses. Each appliance can protect as many hosts, as many Windows and Linux servers, and as much data that will fit on the appliance itself. So if we take a look at how an appliance might be deployed in an environment, we might have a primary site where we have a mix of physical and virtual machines. We might have an Exchange server, we might have SQL servers. These can back up to the UDP appliance that's deployed at the primary site. From the appliance, we can also perform copy-to-tape functionality. So if you need to send a copy of your data to tape so that it can be kept for long term, whether it's for compliance or for other business reasons, we can facilitate that through the UDP appliance as well. As I mentioned, we can also deploy appliances at remote or branch offices, so that at each branch office or at each remote office, we can have a local backup to its own appliance, and then we can have that appliance replicate back to the primary site so that you have an off-site copy of the data. You can also have the primary site replicate to a remote site, again, so you have more than one copy. If you're replicating back to the primary site, all that data, including the replicated data, can also be offloaded and copied to tape for that long-term retention. If you then have a disaster recovery site, or if perhaps you have an MSP that's offering you a backup service, we can replicate from appliances, either from the remote offices and primary offices back to the DR site. We can have multiple replications. So you can have a remote office appliance replicating to a primary site, and then from the primary site replicating to the DR site. So we can have multiple copies of the data again. And once we've replicated the data, we also have features to allow for remote virtual standby. So you can, on a remote site, create a powered off VM from the replicated data. Just like the primary site, we can do copy to tape from a DR site. So once you collect all the data, you can just in one tape device if you need to, and not have to worry about non-IT staff having to manage tapes. I mentioned cloud briefly before, and as I said, Arcserve UDP supports cloud in a number of ways. And if we look to deploy a recovery point server in the cloud, what we can do is protect cloud production instances through that cloud RPS, and then that can replicate back to on-site, whether it's the DR site, whether it's the primary site or branch offices, or a combination of all of them. So in this way, we can see the flexibility of the UDP product as well as the appliance itself in how it can be deployed in different customer environments. From a specifications perspective, I've got two different slides here. I've got one that covers the 1U appliances, which is the 7100, 7200, and 7300 models. Now, I won't be going through all of the different specs here, but if you are interested in more detail, the data sheets for these, including all these specifications, are on the Arcserve website. So if you are interested in downloading a copy of these specs, you can do so there from the data sheet. What I do want to draw your attention to, though, is we have, from the 7200 and up, we have V and non-V models. What you'll notice is that the capacities for the V and non-V models are the same. So if we look at the 7200 and the 7200V, they both have 6 terabyte of raw storage capacity. But the difference is with the V models, they actually have more RAM, which means that they can support the running of VMs as virtual standby machines. All of our appliances have a remote management interface, so they have a separate network connection, which allows you to not only have remote management, but remote console capability as well. And that's included in the appliance. No additional upgrades are required to enable the remote console. The 1U appliances all come with a single external SAS connector, which allows you to attach a standalone tape drive. Now that tape drive can be used for offloading to tape. If you want to attach an autoloader, or if you want to attach a fiber channel tape device, there are optional fiber channel and SAS HBAs that can replace that onboard port, and that will allow you to connect a tape loader or a fiber channel loader as well. There are some other details there as well in regards to the power, the weight, as well as the power consumption at different states. And I just want to also point out that all of our appliances do come with a solid-state drive to allow for better performance when it comes to deduplication. So moving on to the 2U appliances. The 2U appliances are the 7400, 7500, and 7600 models. Now all of these are available in a V and non-V model as well. And just like the 1U appliances, the capacities for the models that are V and non-V are the same. However, the V models will have additional memory to allow the running of VMs on the appliance itself. The 2U appliances, obviously being a larger form factor, allow for more connectivity options. And the 2U appliances come with onboard 2 onboard 1 gigabit Ethernet ports and a 4-port add-on card. And there are options to add 2 10 gigabit Ethernet ports to the appliance. Remote management is included in the 2U, just like the 1U models. And the 2U models actually come with 2 SAS ports by default. They'll come with an onboard one that supports attaching a single tape drive, and it comes with another SAS port that supports the attachment of SAS loaders as well as another SAS drive. There's also options for fiber channel HBA to attach fiber tape devices as well. Again, like the 1U models, they all have solid-state drives that will assist with the performance of the deduplication functionality. And again, because of the larger form factor, we have dual redundant power supplies in the 2U models. If we take a look at the physical connections on the back, for those of you who are interested, and from a technical background, this always helps for me, we can see the 1U and the 2U models. The 1U model has a fixed power supply, has the connections for the 1 gigabit Ethernet ports, the remote management port, and we can see the SAS port for a tape drive as well. Underneath is the 2U model. We can see that it's got the same onboard, 2 onboard Ethernet ports, management port, USB ports. But we can see we've got the 4 1 gigabit Ethernet ports as well as the 2 SAS ports on the 2U model. If there are any technical questions on this side, again, if you want to let us know, I'm more than happy to address those. However, let's take a look at what's actually new with the appliance since we first launched in Australia and New Zealand at the end of last year. Obviously, at the beginning of this year or earlier in this year, we launched Arcserve UDP version 6. So all of the Arcserve UDP appliances are now shipping with UDP version 6 as we'd expect. UDP version 6 adds new features and enhancements, including the ability to do instant VM as well as the virtual standby we already had available. Instant VM is related to virtual standby but a little different. With virtual standby, you have to first do a conversion of a backup into a VM, which means that it's using disk space up front. However, with instant VM, you can pick any recovery point and then do create a VM that stands up from that backup image. The difference is with an instant VM, I don't need to use my disk space up front, and I have the ability to use any previous recovery point as my source data. UDP version 6 also adds tighter copy-to-tape integration with the UDP console. So when we go to set up a plan within the UDP console, one of the tasks can be a copy to tape task, and the UDP console will create that job for us so that it makes it easier to send dailies or weeklies or monthly backups to tape. UDP version 6 also has enhanced Linux protection, so we've added the ability to perform deduplication on Linux backups, send them to a recovery point server of the appliance, and from there we can replicate and send Linux backup tape as well. These are just some of the features that are introduced with UDP version 6. And of course, all of the features that are in version 6 are available with the appliance, and these are just the key ones that I wanted to highlight. Any appliances that are still under maintenance but that were shipped with version 5 can be upgraded to UDP version 6 at no additional cost. So there is the ability to go to the latest version if you have an appliance that was shipped with an earlier version of UDP. Some of the other new options available now is the option to upgrade to UDP Premium. So the appliances up until now had essentially the UDP Advanced version on them, which allowed for not only file server protection, but for SQL, Exchange, and Active Directory as well. But now we can upgrade to UDP Premium, and if we upgrade to UDP Premium, we get the Advanced Tape functionality. With Advanced Tape, that includes all of the Arcserve Backup and options, and it also supports the backup of servers directly to tape. It also adds role-based administration for the UDP console. So you can set different users with different rights. You might want to set a read-only or a monitoring group. You might want to set a group that can perform backups but can't create or delete jobs. And then you might have administrator groups as an example. With UDP Premium, we also have hardware snapshot support. So we do have a growing list of different hardware vendors. And if you refer to the UDP software compatibility list, that'll tell you the hardware vendors that we do support. And with UDP Premium, we also have file and folder replication capability. All UDP appliances can perform replication of recovery points or backups. However, with Premium, we can choose files or folders on a server and choose to replicate those outside of the backup. So if we can upgrade to Premium, we can also do an option to upgrade to Premium Plus. So with UDP Premium Plus, we get the same features that are in UDP Premium, but we also add the high availability functionality. With Arcserve High Availability, we can do near real-time replication, and we can do failover for your critical system. That includes a one-to-one failover. We can go physical to physical, physical to virtual. We can go virtual to virtual, and we can even go and fail over into AWS EC2 environment. From a hardware perspective, we've added a couple more add-on card options. We can actually choose to upgrade the appliances. The 2U appliances can be upgraded with 10 gigabit Ethernet cards, and we have cards with both copper and SFP type connections. And for all the appliances, we can choose to add a fiber channel HBA, which lets you connect a fiber channel tape drive or loader or library. And we also have a 6 gig SAS HBA that lets us attach additional tape drives, loaders, or libraries as well. I do want to note that in the 1U appliance, if you add a fiber channel HBA or if you add the 6 gig SAS HBA, it replaces the onboard SAS port, because the onboard SAS port is for a single tape drive connection only. From a support perspective, we have different warranty options, and we can cover the appliance for up to 3 years on both the hardware and the UDP software. We have a dedicated appliance hardware support team that look after the hardware side of the appliance. And of course, we have 24/7 support from the software side, and that's available with both gold and platinum maintenance options. Speaking of gold and platinum, gold maintenance includes a next business day response. It has an on-site hardware support but during business hours, and you get software upgrade and access to support if you have any issues. There's also a platinum maintenance option which increases the level of support, so we have a 4-hour response in supported areas. If you are curious as to whether the area you're in is supported, you can reach out to us and we can provide confirmation on that. It provides 24/7 on-site support, provides the same access to software upgrades and support as Gold does. However, with Platinum maintenance, you also get a spares kit as well as eligibility for the appliance upgrade and the appliance refresh programs. So let's take a look at what the appliance upgrade and refresh programs actually are. With the UDP Appliance Upgrade Program, this is available if you purchase the appliance with a 3-year Platinum agreement. With the Appliance Upgrade Program, during the first 3 years of having the appliance, you are entitled to purchase an upgrade model of a higher capacity, and you receive that at a discounted price. When you purchase the new upgrade or the new higher capacity model, that must also be covered by a Platinum maintenance agreement. And obviously, because it's seen as an upgrade, once the data has been transferred, the older appliance must be shipped back to us. But it's a good way that if you are on the cusp of different capacities and you're not sure, there is an upgrade path that is available through the Appliance Upgrade Program. With the Appliance Refresh Program, this is available on all models except the entry 7100 model. So on the 7200 and above, if the appliance was purchased with a 3-year Platinum maintenance agreement, what you can do is, before the end of that 3 years, if you renew maintenance with another 3-year maintenance agreement, a replacement appliance of the similar capacity can be shipped out. Once you transfer data to the new appliance, you can ship the old one back. So the appliance refresh essentially just gives you a brand new hardware platform with a similar capacity. It keeps everything updated. So these two programs are an additional benefit available with a Platinum maintenance agreement. If you are interested in the Arcserve UDP appliance, you want to know where to buy one. So from a purchasing perspective, Arcserve is a 100% channel company. So all of the Arcserve partners who purchase Arcserve, both software and appliances, do so through our 3 local distributors for both Australia and New Zealand. So our distributors are Cloud Ready Solutions and Dicker Data. We also currently have a reseller incentive program. So if you're after more details there, you can contact your distributor, or you can contact us, and we'll be happy to give you some more details. If you are already an Arcserve partner, or if you're interested in becoming one, I encourage you to sign up to the Arcserve Partner Portal. Through the Partner Portal, we have a number of different resources available, different PDFs, sales materials. We also have the opportunity registration, which entitles you to additional benefits. So I heavily encourage you to sign up to the Partner Portal if you haven't done so. There's also some online training courses and the like that are available through the Arcserve Partner Portal. Just before we wrap up, I do want to kind of go off on a little bit to the side and let you know that we actually have some new UDP features series webinars happening this quarter. So in this features series, it's a follow-up to the UDP Basics series we had last quarter. And in the features series, we're looking at the individual features that are available in UDP 6. We'll take a look at the concepts behind them, how they work, and then we'll do a little bit of a demo to show how it can be configured and how it can be run. The first webinar of the UDP features series is focusing on UDP bare metal and granular restore. So we'll be able to show how we can do bare metal restore of systems, how we can do granular restore of files and folders, as well as application data. So we'll be looking at how to do SQL database restores, Exchange database and document restores, as well as Active Directory object and object attribute restores. This webinar is going to be held next Friday on the 29th of July at 12 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. And if you're interested in joining, you can register at the URL that's on the screen there. So with that said, that pretty much covers our update webinar today. If you are interested in a deep dive session on UDP, you want a demo, more details, some information, or anything else related to Arcserve, you can contact myself, or you can contact Andrew Huntley. So both our details are on screen there, our email address and phone number. And I'll leave this up on the screen for a bit if you wanted to take down those details. And I'll take a look and see if there's any questions in time. So let's bring up the questions window here. So we've just got some questions about the different interface options. Yep, so we do have 10 gigabit Ethernet options available, and we have both fiber and or SFP type connections as well as copper RJ45 connections available. There's a question about authorized service provider program. That's a good question. At this stage, all services already handled and covered through Arcserve internally, so that's something that we can always look at and raise as we move forward. Another question is, how do we know what size appliance to use? And this is actually a very good question. We have on the Arcserve support website a UDP Resource Estimator. Using this estimator, we can put some details in, how much data you're backing up, how many servers you have, what's your data growth rate, how many backups do you want to keep, and so on. Answering some of these questions, it will then give us an estimation on how much disk space will be needed. And at the end, it also has a recommended appliance size. And it has this for 1, 2, and 3 year projections as well. Another question that's just come up is, can we connect the appliance to a tape library? The answer is yes. Obviously, the kind of connection and the ports that need to be used will depend on the library you're trying to connect. If you want to attach a fiber channel library, you'll need to install and configure the appliance with a fiber channel card. If it's a SAS type library, you'll need to have the SAS HBA specifically. We've got some questions about cloud connectivity and formatting. So from a cloud connectivity perspective and replication, the replication that we facilitate is replication between Arcserve appliances, so one Arcserve appliance to another Arcserve appliance, or replication from an Arcserve appliance to an Arcserve recovery point server, or RPS. So an RPS is a Windows server that has the recovery point server software on it. So when we do replication and you want to replicate into Azure, you need to have a Windows instance running in Azure with the Arcserve RPS software on it. And from there, from that point, we can replicate from the appliance into that Windows instance that's running in Azure. And that goes for Amazon or any other cloud provider as well. We're replicating to a Windows instance with our software running on it. Replication directly into Blob Storage isn't supported at this stage. The main limitations we have, Blob Storage is object store, whereas we're using block access through the recovery point server or the appliance to process the deduplication. So just an plain object store doesn't have the processing or the software capability to do the dedupe, but we can perform file copy and file archive directly into an Azure blob. Also a question here, if you're already using Arcserve Backup, is it feasible to move to an appliance? We definitely have the ability to go from an Arcserve Backup environment moving to an appliance. So with Arcserve Backup, that's a file-based backup that typically will go to the tape or disk. With the appliance, we can put the appliance in place while you're still using Arcserve Backup, and then we can do a phased changeover to the appliance. Once you've moved to the appliance, because we're still using Arcserve Backup from a tape perspective to do the tape copy, we can still do restores of your previous backed up data using Arcserve Backup. So it actually is a good stepping stone to be able to do that. So a question about Linux has just come up. Can we back up Linux? And the answer is yes. So if you're looking at physical Linux machines, whether it's a workstation or a server, we can protect, or we have a Linux agent for a number of different Linux distributions. Predominantly the Red Hat, CentOS, SUSE Linux is supported. However, if you have a Linux virtual machine, we can protect any Linux distribution as a VM as long as the hypervisor host, the VMware or Hyper-V, supports it. So by doing an agentless backup of the Linux VM, we can protect the Linux VM that way. You can also do a backup of Windows workstations to the appliance as well. So with Windows Workstation, when it goes to the appliance, that can be deduplicated as well, so that you're using minimal disk space. And it's ideal for protecting mobile workers. You know, if you have someone who might accidentally leave a laptop on the back seat of a car that gets broken into, or in a taxi, or if it just gets stolen, or if it gets damaged, we can do a restore of the workstation image, and we can support the restore to dissimilar hardware. So you don't have to have the same model and version of that particular hardware laptop. This question here, can we back up using existing backup software to the UDP as a target? The answer is no. So with Arcserve UDP, the deduplication technology is built into the Arcserve UDP software. So it has to be done using Arcserve UDP. It's more than just a storage box. It's actually an intelligent box that can do the backup, replication, virtual standby, and more. Let's see if there's any other questions. We might wrap it up. Oh, there's one more that's come through in regards to high availability and failover options. So if you go with the options to upgrade to the Arcserve UDP Premium Plus, you get Arcserve high availability and failover capability. So what that does is it lets you pick a source machine. We can protect a number of different operating systems, Windows and Linux being the main ones we support. And we can do a replication of the data that you want to send from one side to another. And if we're doing a one-to-one type replication and high availability, the appliance can monitor and make sure that the source and target sides are online. If the source side goes offline, it can then trigger a failover, which will make the failover machine the production machine. And we can make that the production machine by doing, we can change IP addresses, host names. We can also do DNS redirection so that any call to the old machine goes to the new one. All of the features of high availability and failover are the same if you go to Premium Plus. We're basically leveraging Arcserve RHA. We'll take, there's another question about NetApp cluster mode. In terms of integration with NetApp, depending on what you're looking to do, if we're looking at to do hardware snapshotting, or if we're looking to do NDMP type backups, we can integrate with NetApp different ways. So it's probably worthwhile taking that conversation offline and we can talk about that in more detail. But as I said, we do support a number of different hardware vendors from a hardware storage array perspective. Question come through, how long does it take to set up the appliance? The appliance itself can be set up in less than half an hour. It'll probably take you longer to actually rack up the appliance and connect all the cables and patch everything. Once you've actually got that done and power on the appliance, there's actually a wizard interface that you go through where you can set the host name and IP address. And then once the reboot's done, you go through a wizard which sets up your first job, it sets up the data store, and all of that can be done in less than half an hour. Okay. We'll probably leave it there for now. So if there are any other questions that you think of afterwards, by all means, please feel free to reach out, and I'm more than happy to go through and help and answer those questions. But for now, thank you for attending today's session. It has been recorded, and we will be sharing the link to the recording as well. But until next time, and hopefully you can register and join us for next week's Arcserve UDP Features webinar on Friday. But I'd like to thank you again for attending and hope to see you next time. Thanks.